right, everybody. Welcome to the 66th episode of You Had Me at Halo, where we talk about everything to do with one of gaming's most storied and turbulent and frustrating franchises at times. It's definitely been a somber week this week due to news that many people were in fact impacted at 343, including a lot of people that did stuff that we really liked with the last game. So we are going to talk about that. We also have uncovered a lot of information through some good sources that are out there publicly now regarding some of the future of Halo. So we're going to delve into the rumors and also some of the facts and try to put this together for our Halo Nation that has joined us. But before we get into it, let's go ahead and meet today's Spartan team. First up, we have Spartan Aarsal, aka Mr. Soulblazerz. How you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. Doing well. I mean, doing as good as you can in a day like this.
Yeah. It's been a weird week. I mean, obviously it's all perspective, right? So I mean, be fortunate, but definitely it's been a weird week as people that cover this studio and franchise for sure. But next up, we got Spartan Austin, aka Mr. AustinFordGames. How you doing, Mr. Austin?
I'm doing okay, guys. It's been a week. I think one of the biggest things to nail down right now at the top of the show is obviously Halo's dead, and this is it. This is the last episode of the show. It's been a great run. It is time to doom spiral, my dudes. Now, obviously, it's been a rough week, and I genuinely wanted to say I hope everyone affected by the layoffs, not only at 343 but at Microsoft in general, at Bethesda. I hope everyone can land on their feet, find jobs at great studios. Yeah, I'm sure if any now former 343 developers are watching this, I'm sure that they're active on Twitter. And if you're not, I would definitely recommend going and jumping on Twitter. A ton of studios have a ton of great listings. Bungie, Riot. There are some other really good places right now that are looking for incredibly talented people. And I know, as well as you hopefully know, that this had nothing to do with any of your own personal ability. It is just the unfortunate circumstances when dealing in a capitalist society. So wanted to say that. Other than that, let's have a great show, guys.
Yeah, well said, man. Well said. You definitely said it better than I could have. So thank you for that. And we are going to dive into it. So we have a lot to cover, and obviously some of us had a chance to read over some of the information from Insider Bathrobe Spartan. I think some people in the Halo community, a lot of them are familiar with him. He is pretty reliable. And there's also a lot of details that have come out today that have been corroborated as well from others that have been reliable. So we definitely want to dive into that because I think it does help kind of clear up the future. So if you were planning like, well, what am I going to do with all that free time now that I'm not going to put 2,000 hours in Halo Infinite?
Complete Destiny.
Well, we're going to talk about that because, you may not have as many change of plans as you maybe anticipated when you first heard this news. But before we get into that, though, before we start talking about, getting into maybe a few rants and some hopium mixed in, I think we need to just talk a little bit about the developers that were impacted, what we've learned so far. It sounds like there's been well over 100, maybe 130 or so that were either full-time or contractors that have been let go or have moved elsewhere. And with that, we've also, what's been made public is that most of these developers were part of the campaign team. So with that in mind, I think it's worth discussing. Austin, you called it out just a second ago that, you didn't feel like this is anything that they've done. I think we're going to agree. And actually some of the things that we'll get into from the leaks or the rumors, we'll kind of cover some of that as well. But I guess I take this moment, kind of step back. Let's talk about the campaign. There's the developers.
I guess from an angle of like did the campaign team deserve to be stripped down the way that it was?
I mean,
And
that's
like,
probably a good way to start.
I,
Yeah.
I would I would say absolutely not.
No, not at all.
This is devastating, and it's devastating in so many ways because, Abe, I am sorry to say earlier I did not catch what you had said. I just wanted to make sure. Like the last thing I saw was around 130 devs. When you include like contractors and everything, people from the art team have been removed as well.
Yep.
This is super lame in regards to what 343 was able to do with the campaign, even under like incredibly unfortunate development sort of restrictions and crunches and timelines. It, you know, dealing with the pandemic, dealing with so many contractors coming in, being there for a year and then leaving. I think 343 really should be commended for what they were able to do with Halo Infinite's campaign under such circumstances as they dealt with. And seeing Microsoft, instead of doubling down on 343 and being like, yeah, you know what, like if this is what they were able to do with this team, then surely if we bring in more people, it will be a better product, it will be a better game than it already was. Which, you know I know that I've said Halo Infinite's campaign isn't anywhere near my favorite. It is certainly a great Halo campaign, like certainly a great Halo campaign. And this is not at all what I wanted to see happen to that team. I really wanted it to see it do nothing but grow and expand and just go absolutely wild with potential in the future. And unfortunately, it seems like, at least for right now, that's not going to be the case.
Well, and it kind of like on your point, something else, and this came from actually a really good source, and I don't know how public this has been. I think it's been speculated pretty heavily, but they were swerved, later in the development cycle. Like really, the whole architecture, the design did change, some of the ideas, and they did have leads leave in like 2019. I mean, even before Craig Face and all that. So, I think when we call out some of the everyday, lunch pail working developers that who've been going there a bit, some of those have been there for a long time. And you look at the circumstances that everything has kind of come to light, that they really did create one hell of a sandbox, right? We talked about this last show. The sandbox, I think we kind of are all unanimous. We had it all, I think, close to like top tier, right? In terms of the elements of it. And yes, there was things because of the fact they, didn't have the time due to the changes, that it doesn't have as much diversity of content as you would expect. It didn't have some of the wow moments. But that's, I think, for a lot of fans, and I've been reading in some of our Discords and online, I think for some of our fans, that is maybe and I'm going to turn it over to you, So, because I know this, you probably pick up right from this. I think that's one of the frustrating things, because we were like, you were right there. Yeah. And if you could have just like, taken it a little bit further, diversified the biomes, add in that moment, like when you land on the beach in the silent cartographer, or just like those big wow moments that you've had in past Halos, throw a few of those in there, and maybe you would have gone for something like really good and fun to greatness, right? And I feel like a lot of us felt like that potential was there, and it just wasn't realized, and it was bailed on, a little bit too early. But so I'll let you.
Though if we're talking about the campaign team being gutted, do you want to bring up the bathrobe tweets that mentions that? Yeah, technically before that, all we knew was that there were layoffs in the campaign team. We didn't know the scale of it. We didn't know exactly what was happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll kind of start at the top of his long.
So really quick, for anyone watching, Bathrobe Spartan, they are a Twitter user who's been pretty reliable, a lot reliable actually, like really reliable. In fact, they're the few people that said Infinite is not going to Unreal Engine, which makes them very reliable in my books. They released a pretty long Twitter thread about what they've heard, what's been happening at the team, and what chances are we'll hear about officially in the next few weeks, I imagine. But yeah, let's go through that thread.
Okay, yeah. So basically, he starts out by saying the layoffs at 343 Industries are unfortunately a consequence of poor management of the studio and its workforce by the people in charge. While this could have been avoided, the impact on strategy remains minimal. Multiplayer focused content. Now, by the way, this is a translation, so it's going to have a little bit of broken English in it. While this could have been avoided, the impact on strategy remains minimal. Oh, okay. Before talking about the future of 343 Industries, let's first talk about the impact on the studio's current strategy, the state of which we had already mentioned in our previous threads. If we put aside the very sad human toll of these redundancies, the strategy initiated by 343 Industries from 2022 is ultimately only slightly impacted. Produce content for multiplayer, part of the title, at the expense of narrative single player content. As such, these workforce losses will not impact the studio's current plans for Halo Infinite for 2023 and beyond. All the content planned for this year, the seasons, fashions, and elements to come are maintained and not disrupted. This will include all Halo Infinite related projects, works by 343 Industries and external studios. And then he names off like Forge, with Skybox Labs, Spearsoft with the maps and content, and he talks about certain affinity with modes and elements. So this is not the end of Halo Infinite when it comes to multiplayer. For your information, these redundancies do not represent the only loss of 343 Industries. Between this, the positions transferred to other teams within Microsoft, and the non-renewal of external contractors, 343 Industries actually loses 1/3 of its workforce. So keep in mind, when they reported yesterday, I think they said about 60 people were let go. They were probably referring to the full-time employees.
Direct employees.
Yeah, and I also don't think everything came out right off the bat, so keep that in mind as well.
And also, anyone watching, keep in mind, the layoffs are just starting. This isn't the end. This is the beginning. Not to say there will be more at 343, but there might be. There definitely will be at Microsoft, that's for sure, as we go on the next few months.
Yeah, because they basically discussed there was going to be 10,000, and so far they haven't announced 10,000. When you do the math, I think there'll be more over the next few weeks. So. On the hand, these departures mainly impacting the teams in charge of the production of visual and narrative content for the title are the result of two divergent visions within 343 Industries. And this is, I don't know if you've read this yet, Austin, but this this is the part that's probably gonna...
So I did actually. Okay. I read through all of it. I don't have any problem now that I'm glad that Soul pulled it up. I was going to say, like, maybe we should summarize it since we're just reading something that no one else has access to. But,
yeah.
But no, like, this is, it's crazy. Like, they've basically completely gutted their campaign team. I imagine what's left of their campaign team will only work on seasonal narratives for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, basically, he basically says, when I'll kind of summarize some of this stuff here, because this is stuff that's been, I think a lot of people have been hearing from.
Yeah, like this next part here is probably the most important part for me.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read it. Yeah,
this whole bathrobe thing.
Yeah, so I'll cover this word for word just so there's no context missing. The pursuit of the narrative universe. So this is basically the two divergent visions within 343 is the pursuit of the narrative universe versus the studio's financial need. So a small team had been drawn up, or had drawn up the possible plans for the continuation of the adventure of 117, supported by Mr. Staten, and then proposing several short DLCs for Infinite, leading to a bigger expansion for the game via a new campaign within it. The new management team of 343 Industries, following the departure of Bonnie Ross, had made another assessment of the campaign and the single-player narrative content offered by Halo Infinite. So, unfortunately, against the latter, and rather for the benefit of the multiplayer part. So basically, what they said is, the narrative solo content has been proven difficult to produce in recent years. It's not offering strong player retention. It doesn't give them any monetization. So basically, the decision was made not to continue production of single-player narrative content for Halo, or for Halo generally at this time.
So I mean, that's basically it in terms of this part. So that's, for anyone watching, we're all caught up now. We're on the same page. Microsoft execs or the current 343 leadership have made the decision to not pursue DLCs or, honestly, the way I read it, any continuation of Halo Infinite.
Right.
That really sucks. Like,
Yeah.
I can't state how badly that sucks. Like, especially as someone like me who really enjoyed Halo Infinite's campaign. I loved the cast. I loved how they set up the future story coming in. They had the legendary ending with the character I've been dying to see in like actual mainline games. You know what I mean? They set the Banished up as a really menacing villain. I thought they did a great job with that. Now they're throwing it all away. So it
feels like the setup, right? Like it's almost like you're you're a hitter in baseball or something like that, and you got the bases loaded, you work the count, and I don't know, you just walk away.
You change your roster. I mean, I get what they're going for,
like,
right?
You don't even take the swing, and it yeah. No, I'll let you.
We'll talk about it more as we go through the rest. But I get what they're going for, which is like a very far in the future strategy, right? Like, I get that. And something Bathrobe talks about, which we might read, we might not. I mean, you can read it yourself, but he says, or they say that they're going to be pursuing something everyone here has been saying for a long time, which is, source your IP out, do spin-offs, get other studios involved in this stuff, right? Why is it only an FPS or maybe an RTS like once in a blue moon, right? Like, that's something Microsoft should have done a decade ago, not now. Right. So I get what they're going for in this regard, where it's like, hey, let's push that instead of this. But I still think cutting the entire campaign team was a mistake, man. Like, it's
well, and that, so like, yeah, before we get into that, because when you get into the future, the distant future, right? Not like next couple years when it comes to campaign, but when you get into the distant future, there's definitely hopium and potential. But, we have to step back and, like I was like discussing with somebody. I mean, for a second there, I actually, me, like, I guess I do sometimes bitch on this show, right? But I literally got a little bit red in the thinking about it, because you think about this franchise. This is Microsoft. Has been for 2 decades. It's been their Mario, right? Like, and I understand they're running a business. I understand that profitability is something you got to think about, and what they're saying here, not only what they're saying with, what we're seeing with these rumors, but, what they're telling us with their actions is that this type of content really isn't worth the investment anymore. Yeah. And even with our premier franchise, which in my mind, like, should exist outside of this little vacuum, right? Just like the counting equation on Halo shouldn't just be, what are we going to get off this next game? Yeah. This is like,
that really frustrates me.
It's the face of Xbox. It has been for 20 years. And even people who don't play it long time, or only play it for 10 hours and then go do something else. If it's great, if people are, are saying great things about the studio that's managing your Mario, then I think it does more for your brand than just, whatever the money it's bringing in at that moment. And I think that's where I get frustrated.
Is that like the campaign was well received by both fans and critics alike. It was very highly rated. It was in multiple Game of the Years for various publications. People loved it. And then they turned on the game when the multiplayer and the post-launch issues, of course, that happened, right? But a campaign that was well received, which is something 343 technically have not had since Halo 4, and even then it was a little mixed. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yep. You release a campaign that's well received, and then you decide not to pursue the DLC options. Like, I don't get it, man. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, and they had, like this kind of going back and just let's give some props to some of the people that were been let go here, because again they had to deal with.
They did a phenomenal job.
Like, you were asked to balance. You had 2 different. I don't know. Halo probably has more than just 2 communities, but you have 2 really, really loud factions at the very least, right? If we want to divide it down the middle, and they are on opposite sides. One says we want it to be Halo 3 for the rest of eternity. Just keep redoing that. And I'm a huge classic Halo fan. And then there's the other people that said, hey, that's no longer enough. I need to be able to do more. Games have evolved, and I need you to, add more to your game, more, depth
Yeah,
or whatever. So I thought that they really, in terms of threading that needle, I don't know that they could have threaded it much better. They got pretty good feedback in terms of the gameplay, the sandbox, the key core things.
So why gut it? Like,
Right.
let's just talk amongst ourselves. The only thing I can think of,
sorry. I have to imagine that the reason why 343 was so okay with not splitting this up evenly amongst every team and rather hitting campaigns specifically is unfortunate, and it's not campaign's fault. But the thing that sells campaign is multiplayer succeeding, and multiplayer has not been succeeding. Like, don't get me wrong, it's been doing great ever since like Forge came around and everything like that, and it does see a resurgence anytime new content is released. But it's not seeing
if multiplayer isn't
well
succeeding,
enough.
then why not gut the multiplayer team and put them all in campaign again? Because that worked well.
Because
you know what I mean?
Because you can't have Halo without multiplayer. Like, you might as well just like put the IP to bed.
Well, and at the end of the day, we talked about this in previous shows, and you compare 343 to other, gas studios, right? What's Call of Duty have thousands of developers that are there full time. 343 is always skimped for the scope, and we've again talked about this in other shows, but like Josh Holmes, when he left the studio, kind of was frustrated with that. There's all people who've left the studio and have spoken out, have been frustrated with the, contractor situation, the fact that they just never have seemed to have enough full-time employees for the scope they were expected to deliver for both the campaign and the multiplayer. And so it always feels like they're kind of like, okay, we're going to get the campaign right, but now we missed the multiplayer. We're going to get the multiplayer right. Now we skipped on the campaign, and it's always been sort of like, and now that's time they wanted to add a live service, and it's like, in addition to all the other challenges that happened, they just didn't have enough personnel, in my opinion. I mean, not full time, right?
So the way I see it in a way is Microsoft layoffs are happening, right? 10,000 people, probably more. They're going around to the studios, to the employees, to the various, HoloLens or experimental things, blah, blah, blah. They look at 343, it's been underperforming in the metrics in which it should be doing, because the multiplayer really hasn't been doing too well, right? Like Austin said, that's not some kind of myth. It has not been doing as well as it should be. It's not dead, obviously. Well, it depends on the region, but it's not dead. But it's not doing nearly as well as it should be, right? I think all of us were under the assumption that, and I guess this is the issues, right? It's a dual-edged blade of being under Microsoft, this giant corporation, where most of the time, hey, it's almost unlimited money in the sense that, hey, take all the time you need, we'll give you the resources, just, fix your stuff, bring things around. Then sometimes you get stuff like this, right? Recession comes looming, big corporate capitalism comes into play. We need those short-term profits now. Fiscal year's almost over, lay off people, right? People come over to 343, hey, we got to lay off people here, you got underperforming. And they make the decision to prioritize the multiplayer team, of which they had already moved campaign players onto from, campaign employees onto the multiplayer team. And I guess for them, it was that, right? It was either that or nothing.
Well,
I don't know.
The thing that's interesting is the cancellation of the DLC. And kind of staying on that track where they were going to do Halo Endless or whatever you're going to call that, as kind of built on to the original game. That cancellation happened 6 months ago, back when Microsoft was still bullish and still hiring people, and so that was kind of that is kind of a interesting, weird strategy, like for them to decide it even at that time. So I don't think we can say that everything that came out of this, I don't think it was all related to the cost cutting. It was something, and again, I think it goes back to the fact that they just look at it like in a vacuum, and they maybe aren't seeing the forest through like.
No, but let's say you're 343, right? And you've been told by Microsoft execs, hey, you got to cut off 150, 200 people, or basically you got to reduce your workforce by 30%, right? I guess at that point, what do you do?
Well, at that point, you have to, At that point, you have to pick one or the other, right? So, as we kind of move forward and you go like, well, that's going to happen. You're going to lose people, or you're not going to hire more people. And I think then, they probably were looking at it then, It's like almost like you can spread yourself so thin that you drop the ball in every single area, which they were kind of doing. So what they've done, and I don't know if I won't read this part word for word, I'll just kind of summarize it. But what they've done is they've moved everybody over to the, basically said, okay, you know what? Instead of us kind of not doing, kind of not hitting it out of the park in either area, let's move everybody that we do have over to multiplayer. And that was already happening before, again, these cuts. They were already kind of pivoting that way from what I had heard before, and they kind of some others have confirmed it again the last couple of days. They had moved on to a very small narrative or small campaign team that was in the early pre-production of what was going to be the next version of Halo. And they weren't going to be hiring again until it was time to ramp them up. And now then there was plans change and they obviously got rid of them. So I think that's where we're at today.
One thing I will say is, so in a lot of ways, the news is pretty bad, right? Especially for people like me that really like the campaign, the cast, and wanted more of those characters. Like in that way, it's awful. It's it's terrible. I can't spin that or phrase
No,
that.
it
anyway.
sucks.
You know
Honestly,
what I mean?
I'm not a person that plays Halo PvP anymore. Like this is like you were saying, Soul. Like this is
I do drag you on.
My part is like, every once in a while I'll dip my toes in, and don't get me wrong, I have a ton of fun on custom games. But the game isn't a game that I enjoy playing night after night for hours and hours on end anymore. I've always loved Halo's campaigns. I've always loved the lore. I've read every book. I've jumped into every piece of lore that I possibly can. And I actually recently found a screenshot of a DM I had sent somebody a year ago, which is, I think I'm done playing the game for right now, outside of, events and new seasonal releases. Right now, I'm basically just waiting for campaign DLC. And like, oh man, it sucked to see that yesterday.
Yeah, seriously. Admittingly, we did kind of know the DLC plans were canceled. I didn't like fully like trust it. I'm like, okay, maybe not. Let's see how it goes. Hence my very optimistic predictions of, hey, we might see Halo next year, all right, or the year after.
You could not campaign, but
not campaign. But
maybe some good multiplayer content.
What I'm saying is, it's the campaign people really that are hurting the most here. The people that really like the campaign. If you're someone that's listening and someone that plays the multiplayer or is waiting for that BR or really likes Forge, you're okay. They haven't shuttered 343 Studios. They still have a full multiplayer team. Admittingly, it does look like they're still working with a lot of partners for the seasons to release the content. But hey, if that's the route they had to take to get seasonality, then that's the route they had to take. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and I'll go, because you're covering it. I'll cover this, I'll apologize a little bit ahead of time for reading some of the stuff word for word, but I don't like to miss context. So we'll try to hit this at least to cover the main points. But they did say 343 is not going away. However, the game development part of the studio will fade away. The projects and the future of the studio will thus reside in a strategy in 2 points: coordinate the follow-up of Halo Infinite and franchise the Halo license to other studios. And then they said coordinate Halo Infinite tracking. So by keeping several people in charge of the project management and balancing of Halo Infinite, 343 Industries can delegate content production to external studios, as was already the case with Season 2. As a reminder, much of the content of Season 2, whether it is about the multiplayer maps as well as the elements in the shop and the Battle Pass, have been designed by Spearsoft as well as Certain Affinity. So a lot of this stuff's already happening. But they did say, the type of production will continue for 2023, and they will franchise the Halo license to other studios. So, they said also already in 2020, Xbox Publishing had approached other studios to imagine the design of new Halo experiences delegated but supervised by Xbox Game Studios and 343 Industries. So I think I want to stop there real quick because I just want to call out a couple of things.
Yeah.
So like I said before, not everything from this is all driven by what happened after the launch of Halo. If you go, Phil Spencer had an interview back in 2015 where he talked about, he envisioned Halo more like Star Wars and like because of the expansive lore and things like that. And he's hinted in another, I think even leading up to Halo again, kind of like like how expansive the lore is and all this potential, and there's really nothing else like it other than Star Wars. And I think you mentioned Spider-Man as well, but just kind of seeing like that type of thing. And I think they have been kind of trying to think about, or figure out how they were going to maybe expand beyond just the core first person shooter with this whole entire world,
which they should have done so much long ago.
Yeah, which is just like way overdue. And even when Pierre came in September, when they interviewed him, he talked about that as well, right? So I don't know if you guys remember that, but he made a comment about other games within for Halo, like expand it. I don't have the exact verbiage here, but he did mention that as well. So I feel like they've probably already been dipping their toes into like who could it be.
Admittingly, yeah. I mean, he mentions in 2020, right? So this is clearly not a brand new idea to them,
right?
But maybe now they finally made that decision to like fully commit to it. Like, hey, we're forced to these layoffs. We're forced to basically choose, right? What we do. Let's do this. Let's do this. And Pierre, what did he mention? What words did he use? He didn't say restructuring in his internal email. What did he say? In the internal email just recently. Let me see if I can pull that up.
Are you pulling up the Pierre? Yeah.
Although I will say, while you're looking for that, Soul, if the campaign team had to be sort of downsized so that Halo Mega Blocks Project Hagar can live, I'm all about it.
Man.
So
he said, made the difficult decision to restructure, are his exact words in an employee email sent, I think, yesterday or the day before.
Yeah, so like this stuff, I think this stuff was initially planned to be an addition, right, to whatever the main line is. So yeah, he said basically, so already in 2020, Xbox had approached the other studios. He said, with the downsizing and loss of talent for production of narrative solo content, it is the approach that will be favored in the future, allowing other studios to design with permission Halo titles at a smaller scale and budget. These studios will have access to certain resources from 343, including the Slipspace engine, which was an interesting thing. Is right. That's been in our
I thought Slipspace was awful and it was holding everything back, and they'd already switched over to Unreal Engine 6. No, did that not happen?
It hasn't happened, and he also said that they're going to continue to update it, improve it. The studio has a team of engineers in charge of the engine, so obviously they're still working on that. So in the future, it's going to lead to more Halo video game products, but they're probably going to be, not necessarily
first-person shooters,
right?
Which is great. This is like music to my ears, right? Like if it was just this and then no layoffs at all, that'd be like the best case scenario ever. But life sucks sometimes.
So I guess let's stop there. Let's talk about a couple things. So you and me both play a lot of the multiplayer, and Austin, I know you get.
I do.
We drag him in for hours.
This season,
I don't, but it's not true. I've played so much of it. I just haven't in the last like 2 weeks.
The issue with this season is just I already have every single one of these Ultimate Weekly Awards, which was like my main motivation to play in the last couple seasons. So like I see, I'm like, let's play, and it's like, God, I already own Tactical Clippy. Like, come on. So I'm really waiting till season 3 to really dive back in, probably playing every night like I used to, but yes, I do play the multiplayer. Thank you for
so does this news like change any of your perception of that? Like, are you more confident or
one thing
the same as you were?
I think one thing it does kind of make me think is that more than ever this year, 2023, is their do or die year for multiplayer. There's no way 343 is going to abandon any of the officially revealed support, and we know they haven't really cut down the multiplayer team for now, right? But if they can legit just be like, hey, snap, goodbye campaign team, right? If they can make these massive decisions, this like like this, then now this might sound kind of like worrying or even FUD in a way, but the multiplayer this year really needs to prove that it can be sustainable, that it can bring players back. You know what I mean? That it can be there and be worth it. God, someone else go. I'm trying to word salad.
No, it's frustrating because it's the funny thing, and we hear it every year, and I've been hearing it, at least I've been hearing it every year since like 2011, 2012, where this is the do or die year for Halo. It's
but by that, what I
it's
mean is before
unfortunate.
this.
No, it's the stupid thing about it is that it's true to some degree. Like every year for the last decade plus really has been like, man, Halo's hanging on by a thread. And like, unfortunately, Infinite released, and it's a very fun game. Unlike, Halo Reach, or Halo 4. I really enjoyed Halo 5, so like I really wouldn't say anything about that. It's just like their content structure, like their content plan delivery structure was not sustainable whatsoever.
Yeah.
But like Infinite really does need to prove that like this is the live service Halo game that it's been claiming it is since 2020. And it hasn't done a good job of that yet. Season 3 is already this is going to sound gross because it's going to sound like I don't appreciate the fact that we got the custom games browser. But one of the biggest things that I was excited about for Season 3 was the custom games browser. And it's already in the game. So like, what's the big punch item on that list for Season 3? Because like right now, there is not a ton.
You know what the big punch item for the next season is?
Is that it's 3 months long?
Written down. No. That's one thing, but no, not that. It's that it's going to bring back some players, which means the week or two of that season happens, your ping will be better, your desync will be better, things like that. You have more people playing Forge. That's the big punch of the season, really. It's up to 3 for 3 to maximize that, right? Be like, hey, for all you guys that left after finishing your battle pass in season 1 or 2, and you're coming back because we got our own marketing blitz and we got trailers and who knows, maybe a Super Bowl ad, highly doubt it, but maybe, right? Like, come check the game out now. That's going to happen season 3 for sure. Because if you looked at even just season 2 numbers, there was a pretty big bump. Even the winter update had a bit of a bump, but I feel like without like a proper battle pass, like I'm not alone when I say like I'm really superficial in these kind of games, and I really want to see that bar go across my screen and then like get something at the end. You know what I mean?
You are the masses. I mean, that's why we have. That's why we have such a young.
Soul is 100% the Gen Z gamer.
Whoa! I'm not a Zoomer. All right, let's not go there.
We have you to represent all the kids that like to dress up. Play dress up with their.
But I mean, like for better or worse, it's a big part of these live service games, right? In fact,
it is. You are absolutely right.
I don't know. Halo Infinite is not doing a good job of it at all right now.
No, and the sustainability. So you're right. So and even as somebody, and I see Mike in the chat there too. It's like even as us old schoolers that maybe don't get so caught up in that, and sometimes we just don't buy stuff out of principle because we're old and we yell at the clouds. But the end of the day, you talk to the 20-year-olds or even the 30, like that is what drives them back to the games. It's the cosmetics. It's the progression. It is, what did I get for that time playing? Even a number going upwards means something, right? Like, and I think that's just where a lot of our video game minds have been sort of trained over the last few years, and it's why RPGs do so well and things like that. People like to see that they're making progress, that they're accomplishing something, even if it's a minor thing. And so they're going to have to figure out the progression. They haven't talked about that. They're going to have to figure out the cosmetic aspect of it, and I think they're going to have to figure out how to make that interesting, because right now it's, I mean, I know you said so that you're happy with yours. I think for the average person, there's just not a lot of exciting stuff when they look at that. You got to figure out how to make that exciting.
Well, to be fair, the average person wants like a scream mask as a customized
so
option.
Here we go, and I see Mike in there. He's going to start yelling.
Yeah,
Mike, you're going to have to allow those. If you want Halo to be healthy and survive, if you want it to continue to get the support, it's going to get support. You might have to allow them to throw the cowboy hat in there. I don't know.
I mean, like, as weird as it seems, like before this news of the layoffs, right? Like, I was pretty bullish. In fact, I still am, because technically the layoffs didn't really affect the multiplayer part. You know what I mean? So I am still bullish for this year of Halo Infinite. I think this can be a fantastic year for the game, the multiplayer. Sorry, let me rephrase. I'm bullish for the multiplayer of this year of Halo Infinite. I think we already had a really exciting tournament in the esports side, and it wasn't even like a major. So going into Charlotte, there's a lot of excitement coming in. You have the seasons finally hitting seasonality. Hopefully, season 5 is announced the moment season 3 releases, give another roadmap, blah, blah, blah. Like, the pieces are coming together slowly but surely this year, right?
Yeah.
So if we didn't have the layoff situation, the restructuring at 343, I wouldn't even be considering that Halo Infinite might drop multiplayer support by next year, right? That would never even have been in my mind, because the way I thought of it was that it's going to be supported for at least 3-4 years, constant content releases. They have the cadence set. They see it's a platform game, Overwatch, Warzone, Fortnite, that kind of stuff. Now it's a little different,
And I think you're totally fair in that. I think that's totally. I mean, part of it is crazy when you say it out loud, because it's like, like this goes back to the thing, and I won't go back to my rant, but this is this is still your Mario. You bet, like you can't anthem Halo.
No,
now here
no,
the thing the thing is, I think the worst case scenario, honestly, with Halo Infinite, because of the Forge, I still think people will still go play it for a long time. People will still be joining ranked games, and they probably, even with minimal support, they're going to have somebody that rotates in Forge maps, and once they figure out how to do that. And I think for season 3, that might be one of the. So if you're looking for that hook, Austin, I predict that them being able to start rotating in the Forge maps and the Forge modes.
Oh, absolutely.
People don't realize some of the cool stuff that's out there, because it's not easy to find right now. It's
dude,
still
you give a person to you force someone to press even 2 extra buttons than they're used to, and there goes like 50% of the potential people that could be playing this. Like, I'm not joking, but you give them a playlist that says, "Hey, Forge, have fun." Oh, what's this? I'm gonna click this.
Well, and it's not just pushing the buttons. I mean, we've all kind of experienced it too, right? Like you play a game and say, "Oh, this is fun," and then half the people leave, and then something.
Oh,
breaks,
yes. Yeah,
it's not a consistent experience.
It's very much
like
a custom game browser experience. So people who love and are used to that, great. But the masses
it's extra work. It's like you have to put in you have to invest some effort to be able to do your thing. It's not like just going to the playlist and you hit the button and you wait a few seconds, and you bullshit with your friends, and then you're in.
It's
the
like
game.
Needing a screwdriver to make your PS5 sit up front. That's what it's like.
People don't want to take the extra few steps, so there's some cool modes in there, and we're not talking about all that stuff today.
Oh, so many.
There's cool modes.
Did you see Unisec?
Like great maps.
He mentioned once on Twitter, I found it hilarious, where he's like, we actually were using diglets to test internally some of our like desync or latency issues, because just the way that map was set up. Some really cool stuff.
There's some real, like some of the maps, honestly, you'll think they're developer made maps. I mean, John's made a couple himself. There's
Salvation, phenomenal looking.
Just rotate them in there. Get a playlist, rotate them in there. So people who want to try new things but don't want to work for it can do that. Also with the modes, we played that one that's like the what do you call it? The Titanfall mode, the time shift thing where you're going back and forth.
Oh,
like
yes, yeah. So
there's some really cool things. So that is, I think they're gonna have to do. But I guess going back to, I won't go chasing squirrels. That's a whole different show, right?
That's the show on Saturday, guys. They're the ones who chase squirrels.
Yeah. So they really, I agree with you. I think that even though it seems unfathomable that you might just go, you know what, we're going to step back and, put our resources over somewhere else now. That is always a possibility, especially, given the year, and if they, continue to, if other studios need some help or something, they might just drag them from here. So hopefully
it's uncertain, right? Is the end of the day is the issue. It's not as certain as it used to be. It's not as rock solid as it used to be. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. You know what I mean? Maybe that's the fire, the push the team needs. Actually, no, that doesn't. Well, you know what I mean.
Well, you know what? But here's the thing. Where they're at today, sometimes when you're winning, if anybody here's a sports fan, when your team's up, you play conservative, right? You run the ball between the tackles. You don't really throw it deep on third down. When you feel like you're in the lead and you're winning, you play it safe. When you're behind, when you get desperate, when you're down, and you pull out everything out of the playbook, right? Especially when your season's on the line. So I kind of feel like, the developers who are both there and who were there previously, who are no longer there, they put together a really solid foundation that to this moment has a ton of potential. But I think they need to get creative, right? They need to get creative. And I do think they might need to get a little desperate, pull some new tricks out of the bag. I think this is one of those things where they don't have a lot to lose. I think they need to be a little bit creative, and Halo, I feel like 343 is for the longest time has, because of the community, has been afraid to stray too far outside the lines, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so get a little bit risky, I think.
There's a great discussion happening. In fact, there's a lot of discussion happening in our comments. And for those of you watching, all 87 of you, wow, thank you. We only have 25 likes. So please, if you can, hit that like button. Really helps with the algorithm, or so I've been told. But there's a discussion happening in there. Yeah, I don't know who fact checks this stuff. There's a discussion happening in there, where someone mentioned, Amit mentioned that if Titanfall was that much of a success, EA wouldn't have prioritized Apex. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in a similar vein, vaguely similar vein, 343 have chosen to prioritize the multiplayer experience and revenue over the single player, at least for the short term.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably the smart decision. Like, it sucks that we're not going to get the DLC. We're not going to get a continuation. And to be fair, the next Halo game, even if it comes out in 2027, might be a direct continuation of Infinite. You might still be on this ring. You might still deal with the Banished, Natriox. I mean, Ragnarok did it. Horizon Forbidden West did it. Those games were 4 and 5 years after the first one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's still possible, but...
Well, and I was saving this for our what do we want to see, or what could mitigate some of the stuff.
Yeah, fair enough.
Forward.
But
But
we can save it then. We can save it.
Yeah, okay. Because there is things they can do. Like I don't think. We'll save this for our like what could happen thing. And this goes to I kind of set that up with the desperation thing. I think there's things that they can do within this game that wouldn't even require them to go out and hire another 200 people that might liven up the brand and the excitement around the game. So we touched on the multiplayer. I guess any other thoughts you guys wanted to add to that?
Austin?
I mean, I don't know if it's kind of reaching into future discussion, but I'm just really excited to see what the team does when this feels gross to say, but like I feel like the multiplayer team, not that they haven't already, but I feel like they may be feeling pressure to really provide content that will help ensure the future of this specific game. So I'm excited to see what might come out of this from them. I'm also excited to see more collaborative efforts from third-party studios that Microsoft has been bringing in for over a year now to help with the development of the game, whether it's Certain Affinity or Skybox Forge or any of those guys. I'm specifically very excited to see what Certain Affinity is working on beyond just what we are
rumored,
damn near guaranteed to know what they're working on at this point.
Speaking of, for all the
people who don't. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say. I mean, it's the rumor Tatanka, the battle royale mode, basically confirmed. But for anyone thinking this is it, Halo Infinite's done, keep in mind that mode's been being worked on for, people are saying, around 3 years already, since 2020. It's coming soon. Well, maybe in a year or two, but still, that's soonish, right?
I want to.
Go on.
I want to interrupt you just real quick. Mort in chat has said something that I would love to address, which is Mort said, I wonder if PvE modes could still show up. I think that this is what a third-party satellite studio could provide the game, is a strictly PvE firefight style mode, while the MP team is focused on multiplayer, on the live service. Certain Affinities focused on the battle royale, and then other studios are doing other stuff. If anything, as unfortunate as it is, if an internal team isn't developing brand new PvE campaign content, then maybe a satellite studio could work with some systems and get some classic firefight going, or maybe even some more. I've talked about it in the past, but like what my idea for like a Firefight 3.0, where it's objective based and you have all sorts of kind of stuff, almost extraction shooter style objectives, but in a strictly PvE mode.
Yep. I mean, they've said they've opened up their tools, their engine, right? People want to take a stab at it.
Yeah.
Make the pitch. Though one thing about the PvE mode is I feel like this entire circumstance has shown a bit of a light on one of the stuff the Forge team's working on, right? which is the campaign AI coming to Forge.
I was
They're
just
still
going to mention
saying-
that. All right.
I,
good,
I
good.
knew you were. I knew someone was going to mention it, but
I was like,
that is still being actively worked on. Yeah.
yeah. And I did and that to your point, Austin, and I kind of throw both of your comments together along with Lord's. That is something you wouldn't have to wait 3 years for, right? You could they have all the puzzle pieces. You just need somebody to to balance that. They have, we see what they even can do with the Forge and kind of move things around there. If they're going to be able to bring that campaign AI into some sort of multiplayer thing, you give that to a studio, you could probably get content out, I don't know. I don't know exactly development time, but it's not gonna. You're not having to put together a narrative and a story or you don't have to really about connecting those dots. And I think that's something that they could probably do in a much shorter period of time, relative, right, and get you that.
Yeah, I am hilariously, I think, the person among the three of us, and don't let me speak for anybody, that may want PvE content in Halo Infinite the most. That is not specifically campaign. Like, I'm looking for sort of leaderboard style PvE content. I am not at all excited for campaign enemies in Forge. Like, as cool as that stuff could be, like as cool as custom games with campaign AI could be, it's only ever going to be. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we haven't seen the full extent of what Forge custom games can truly do. But I'm bummed out because there's always going to be a very hard limit on what you can do in Forge, and it's what Forge is capable of.
Yeah, like budget wise and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I would much rather have like a dedicated mode for let me queue up Firefight with 6 people. And just kill aliens and earn points and complete objectives. That's what I'm more interested in than putting campaign AIs on a massive even Forge map.
I think
I get what you're saying.
What the hope though is that you can have the more official, properly dev made like Firefight mode coming, while at the same time campaign AI might be in the game this time next year. You know what I mean? I don't know. We don't know their roadmap, their schedule. We know they're actively working on it, right? The fact that they've talked about it makes me think that like they've made decent progress. I hope. I'm hoping.
Yeah, why would you even mention it?
Right.
Especially 343. Like by now, not to say something. Maybe not. But not to say to kind of tease something's coming. And if you're going to mention it, people are going to assume it's coming. So
exactly.
But to Austin's point, I do agree with him. And you could farm that out to a satellite studio and oversee that and have an official firefight mode with official stat tracking. And
I mean, like some of the things that people are saying in the chat, the House of Reckoning is a great starting place. Like literally, just give me a Halo Reach style firefight in the House of Reckoning for now. I'd be thrilled. But progression, cosmetic rewards tied to the mode, like you could get such like multiplayer only has between all platforms it's available on at most 25,000 players a day, which is not terrible at all. Don't get me wrong.
To be fair, do you have a source on that number? Or is it mostly just?
I mean, Steam is 6, and like I would be blown away if Xbox is seeing more than an additional 19,000 players a day on Halo. I would be blown away. Right now, this far into the season, I would be shocked. It's an estimate. I'm not saying it's a hard number.
It's still sitting at 21, 22, 20, right? Most played. That's still a fairly decent amount considering the console's played by 30 million active users a month, right?
Sure. But you have to imagine what the population of those higher on that list looks like. That sort of thing. I'm not saying it's a hard number. I'm saying like my estimate in my head, I'd be surprised if it's more than 25,000 players a day. I think that while it wouldn't be a massive number if it did get this dedicated PvE mode, it would definitely help population. That's all I was trying to say. Was a dedicated PvE mode would help the population grow. It wouldn't hurt it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, no,
Marketing is super-
absolutely. And again, like with this approach, so let's use that as a pivot point, because I think that actually does tie into something that is a topic, and that's the fact that they talked about now the fact that this license is going to become, I guess, Star Wars-ish or something. Like how Lucas does that, and you could make games in different genres. But I think, to your point, you could make games even in multiplayer. You could make PvE modes. You could do all kinds of things like that. They will have access to the game engine, the Slipspace engine. I do wonder if maybe some of the rumors of UE5 is just probably because of more prototypes and things like that. But at the end of the day, a developer doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. They can use the engine, the sandbox, and the AI, and they're going to continue to iterate on it.
And it's still a very pretty game, even if that's your bar. Like Infinite is still a pretty game. Far from, like we talked about it a couple of episodes ago, I feel like, or maybe even last episode. It doesn't hold up as well as I would hope it would, even just a couple years in. But like, what a pretty game.
Yeah. I mean, so keep in mind they're going to continue to iterate at, right? And a lot of the challenges that we heard, all the crap about the Slipspace engine, which was legit, it wasn't mature. It wasn't ready. They didn't have the tool set. They didn't have the UI or whatever it was they were saying wasn't there. That stuff's going to get better over time. I mean, in fact, I heard, we heard that it's gotten better in time.
Yeah,
so,
I feel like we can start saying that it has gotten better. The fact that they said something like the December update was made in whatever amount of time, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like they've gained the confidence to hit the pacings they've been wanting to hit for a little while. Right. That doesn't seem like a hypothetical as much as it used to be. And how did that person die? But,
right. Like you don't need to scrap this whole thing, and again, you have a template there, and I'd be curious, so let's talk about this. They are going to, there's going to be a loss of the internal game development capabilities at 343, but this does open it up to make it distributed. There's still going to be oversight, that type of thing. So, you're still going to have your person that's going to make sure the lore is right. What do you guys want to see? What are you guys hoping to see?
I'm hoping to see me actually beat Jesse for once when we fight each other to the death in co-op mode in this game.
I'm sorry.
I missed your entire question.
Abe.
I'll be honest.
Yeah, I think Soul and I were both like laughing at the gameplay and then the chat reacting to the gameplay. Can you please rephrase the question?
Oh my god.
Oh my god! Pay attention, class. I
felt like a Billy Madison moment. Like I felt like I was about to give an answer and then be told I'm the dumbest person on the planet for it. I was I don't know. I heard the last 4 words, so here we go.
So when you guys hear about the fact that now they're going to farm this out and do what we talked about earlier, right? The thing we've been asking them to do for years.
Right.
What are some of the things you'd like to see?
I mean, I already said mine earlier. Like, give me Project Hagar or give me death. I want Halo Mega Bloks the game.
Oh, Mega Bloks.
Like, I legitimately, like, I'm only kind of joking. I legitimately want that so bad. My favorite co-op experience games ever are the Lego games. Those games are so much fun. And like the prototype footage we saw from the Mega Bloks game looked amazing. I will never get over that one of my favorite IP was almost turned into a super cool, like a super cool, almost family friendly little Lego style game. And then they were like, you know what? We're not going to do it.
Hey, they're going to have, what's the Toys for Bob? Well, maybe ABK.
You mean the Modern Warfare studio? The COD studio? I don't know, man.
COD support studio. What do they know about Mega Bloks?
It's just Toys for Bob and like really militaristic looking font. It's just so dumb.
Hey, you know what? Actually, now that you mention it, they might be perfect. You do platformers, you do Crash, and you do Call of Duty. What's the mashup there? It's the Mega Bloks game. Austin.
Yeah.
Oh,
hell yeah.
God.
One thing really quick, Lethal in the chat, I think Michael Schur has gone on record to say that the next major Forge update will have banished decals and objects and stuff. And I'm assuming I can't do an Australian accent, but I'm assuming that's coming with season 3.
Yep.
But in terms of what I want, Abe, honestly, this is gonna sound kind of weird, but I want smaller games. I love Halo's universe. I love the IP. I love so many of the books.
Yeah, give me another
story,
Spartan
the
Assault.
mouse.
God damn it!
Not even Spartan Assault is one, but like
I'm joking.
Well, games that are like don't require.
But like that, yeah, I
know?
get it.
I've been playing a game, Sleeper Citizen, recently, right? And like even something like that, something so out of the left field for Halo, but it could work, you know, because the IP has strength. It has so much creativity. It has so much potential.
Well, again, like I keep going back to the Star Wars thing, you know, like and you know, ever since Phil put that in my head, you think about all the different genres of games that Star Wars is in. Yeah, you do have your first person shooter, but then you have your third person action adventure game. You had your kart racing thing or whatever that thing was way back in the day. You know, you had your fighter type, you know, whatever the you know, you can do dog fights or something like that. There's so many different. Yeah, Rogue Squadron. My God, I can't think right now.
Rogue Squadron.
Yeah, get the 2,000 people that developed that Reach section and, you know, build a whole studio.
Oh my God, that was freaking horrible. Don't ever do that again. Did you play that on Legendary, by the way? Like that Reach section?
I did, but only with the other people. So 2 other people. So it was lots of
that was one of the worst Halo experiences I've ever had. Was that section on Legendary? It's like when okay, I won't go down that.
But yeah, but honestly, all I want is I don't need. You know, we've talked about this in the past, and the go-to answer. What's an RPG? A giant Mass Effect scale. Have me go through the entirety of Halo's lore. Awesome, amazing, right? But I don't want to wait 15 years for this game.
So it doesn't even have to be. It doesn't even have to be a giant one. I mean, it could be. Yeah. You could do something the scale of Outer Worlds, right? Like, and I'm not saying like you could go prettier than that and do something that plays better than that within the engine, but yeah, because that's that. You know,
I do think they should avoid first party. Sorry, first party. My bad, not first party. Sorry. Whoa. I do think they should avoid first person shooters for their spin-offs, unless that is the next Halo game. Is what I
disagree. Give me a sequel to ODST. I want a direct sequel to ODST that is either like a whole new team of ODSTs. Of course,
let me rephrase. Sorry. By that, what I mean is like a Halo game, but made in like the Doom and whatever engine Doom uses. Oh, I know what it uses, but still, you know what I mean? That's what I mean. I mean like a completely separate spin-off, but the genre happens to be an FPS. I don't think they should do that.
So let's talk about it, because a lot of people, you know. Clown like on Ryan McCaffrey for going, give it to id. But you know what? Like the thing is, again, keep in mind the engine. These developers that have used one engine, they can use another engine. And the one thing that doesn't get talked about, that is actually one of the benefits of doing this, is it does mitigate one of the issues that 343 has had when they've outsourced in the past, which is, you know, their main headquarters are in Washington. They have time constraints on their contractors. That's been the issue. If you listen to all the developers that have left that have complained vocally, and most of them kind of call that out because it's the reason why the teams change. It's not that they got to just learn this engine that's proprietary. It's that they learn it and then they're gone halfway through. Yeah. Like, you know, you don't really get to get the main benefits about them, you know, of them actually learning it. So now that you have this ability to kind of go external, you can like they can take on the engine. You can have a team that takes on this engine. You know, I've talked to other developers about this. It's like, you know, going from Unreal to Slipspace really isn't. You got to learn the interface and where things are and how.
It's still programming, right? It's like shifting from one language to another. Yeah, you have to relearn the syntax. You have to relearn some of like the tips and tricks, right? But it's not like you had to relearn your entire programming or your algorithm knowledge. That stuff stays.
No, a lot of the principles are similar, right? And actually, I've heard Unreal 2, even the Blam and Slipspace is not like this whole different language. It's just the issues of kind of figuring out, like there is nuances. Anybody who's worked in technology knows sometimes you're going to have nuances. You have to kind of learn where things are at and how to do things slightly different. But generally, you know, you could have id take over, have a team, right? That, and I'm not saying it will, but I'm just saying, given that example, it is feasible that they could do that, and they could actually build a game within Slipspace for them, or
that's what you mean.
Machine Games. Right, Machine Games could do that.
I guess you know what, a lot of the discussion that came with these kind of things, like give it to id, give it to this. I was under the implication that basically it wouldn't be using Subspace, it wouldn't be using Blam, it'd be using a completely different engine, and honestly, it wouldn't be Halo in that aspect. You know what I mean? But if this engine's open, it's like, hey, you want to try making a Halo game? Feel free to prototype. Here it is. Give it a shot. Then yeah, I mean, right? Like, why not? Yeah, it's some time and resources might not work. Probably won't work, but still, right?
It's not like the engine would only be limited to FPS. Like a game, I know that you know this, but like a game engine can be anything. Like Stubbs the Zombie on the original Xbox was made with the Halo 2 engine.
I feel like I
did know
that.
What you're saying is you're going to make Stubbs the Zombie the sequel and
Stubbs 2 Electric Boogaloo. And then Master Chief's just like running around trying to kill him or whatever.
I guess how do I phrase this? For every single Halo game released, all 7 or 8 of them, including the spin-offs, blah blah blah, have felt like Halo to me. You know what I mean? Even with the changes, even with some of the differences in the mechanical design, blah blah blah, not a single one has felt like this isn't a Halo game. I can't say the same for some other long-running franchises, or I worry that if a completely different studio with a completely different engine tries to make their take on this, that might not be there. It could still be, because you can make Halo and Unreal. Of course you can, right? An engine's an engine. It's a set of tools. You can do what you want to do with it. Probably. You know what I mean?
Like the whole problem that I've had, and I know that some developers were like, well, it either would still, like, they could still make it feel like Halo, or it could still not feel like Halo, is like there have been multiple Halo fan projects that have been in development on various engines for literally years now, and some of them are even in playable states at this point, and they have periodic, kind of private or public tests, and none of them feel like Halo.
Not a single one.
So like you couldn't convince me that it's like, well, if you just threw enough fucking dollars at it, it'll feel like Halo. Because like at the end of the day, like Bungie really did capture magic.
Exactly. Dude, it's not just Halo. Destiny feels goddamn amazing too. You know what I mean?
Bungie, man, they just know how to do it. Like some programmer 30 years ago spilt a Diet Coke on his keyboard, and you got the Blam engine. You got the Marathon,
and you had engine. And the pistol was the most powerful weapon in the entire.
I still feel that was just a typo in the tuning or something, and then they just couldn't fix it because there were no patches at the time.
The pistol was. I would rather have a pistol than any other weapon in the entire game.
Oh man,
a fully loaded, all my full
like
ammo.
The potential of Halo spinning off is super, super exciting. Man, I really, really wished it didn't come with the flipping dour news of the campaign team being gutted. God damn.
Yeah, no, and yeah, you definitely would want both, but I do think, like I said, just when you're outsourcing it, like you still can get, they're going to get the engine. The one thing I was going to say, I kind of add on from a technical standpoint, sometimes somebody who has experience in, like, let's say in id Tech is now going to work in slip space. They might go, well, why don't you guys do this in your engine or
bring
something?
their expertise in.
You can actually evolve the engine that might actually even help improve it over time, or like to get feedback in terms of how to make it more intuitive for developers to get up to speed on it earlier and things like that from other Unreal developers. So I think all that stuff is in play.
Do you think it has to be first party? Sorry, I cut you off. No. But in the subject of giving it to other publishers or other studios, I should say, does it have to be first party only? Does it have to only release on the Xbox?
I mean,
those are two different questions.
No,
those are two different questions.
Oh no, it's going to release on the Xbox.
Please put spin-offs on the fucking Nintendo Switch. Please.
I fully agree with Austin here. I'll be honest.
Please.
I
put it on the PlayStation.
I don't care.
Please.
Put it on the PlayStation. I don't care. You know what I mean?
Oh my God. Can I tell you how much easier my fucking life would have been in 2014 through 2017 if someone walked in and was like, hey, can I get Halo on the PlayStation? And I could have said yes.
Oh no, they're not going to do that. They're going to have Call of Duty on every. Yeah, they're not doing that.
Fair enough,
but to your point, I mean, they're already outsourcing. Fable's using a whole nother studio, and the Initiative's using a whole nother studio.
Fair enough, yeah.
And I'm looking at this as, I think Microsoft, in 2018 when they did the thing with the Initiative, they were trying to experiment to make. People hate, they have developers that have kind of hate the word agile or whatever. But basically, like the idea is Yeah, the idea is like you have a creative team, and then when you're
Oh,
ready,
man.
you go find somebody that's ready to kind of do all the lunch pail work on it, right? Like start coding and put it together. Um, so again, you could do the same thing here. You could make a Crimson Skies, but with banshees and whatever else, right? You don't even these don't even need a big projects. I agree with you. But I do think that
Big projects would be
something,
nice, but just
yeah.
spread the IP a bit, spread the brand. It's already, to be honest, it's already. I know a lot of people online are like, "Kill Halo, put it to bed, give it the
Well,
Fable treatment." No, 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 no. I don't
No,
care
you know what?
how. Yeah, it's a huge IP.
Other companies would kill to have something with as much
100%.
lore, with as much name recognition,
100%.
just
Even
because
Sony would kill to have the Chief as a mascot. Are you kidding me? 100% they would.
the universe, the lore, the love of Master Chief is not dead. In fact, that is why that is why Halo drums up such toxic fan bases, because people are passionate about it, right? They still do care about it. all
Well,
these years
I would
later.
challenge that thought and say people are nostalgic about it, not
It's still
necessarily passionate about it. But yes, now 100%.
They can come together.
a little
People
over.
love Halo, and like it was funny because I did legitimately have an encounter a few years ago when I was in a GameStop, not even at games or not working at GameStop anymore. Where I was in a GameStop, I was picking something up that I had pre-ordered, and a dad and his kid walks in. Kid's got to be like, I don't know, 6 years old or so. This dad is like, "Yo, I'm here to pick up an Xbox. I haven't had one in a while. So excited." And the guy that went to help him was like, "Well, you got to check out the newest copy of Halo." And then, at the time it was Halo 5. He was like, "Oh, they're still making this? I loved this when I was a kid." I was like, "Fuck yes, dude." I was like, "What is your gamer tag, brother? Like, we will play Halo together." It's so cool. It's so cool that like you still hear stories like that, or 2 years ago during a Destiny reveal event that they do every summer, Luke Smith, who's the creative director for the Destiny franchise, and Jason Jones, who's one of the co-founders of Bungie, sat down and had like a 15-minute long interview before the show actually kicked off. And Jason Jones was talking about like Luke Smith had asked him like, what was one of the most important things that's happened to you since you've like what is your tombstone worthy distillation of like what your impact on this world has been?
That's a tough question. Holy crap.
Well, Jason Jones answered it beautifully and was like, I was riding home the other day on a train ride, and I heard these two guys who had obviously known each other for a long time and worked together, and must have gone to college together or something, but they were talking about Halo 2. They were talking about just like playing Halo 2 and reminiscing about how much fun that was, and in doing so telling each other how much they loved and appreciated one another. And I was like, God damn it, dude, that is beautiful. Like, Halo has been that for me my entire life, and not to ramble on too much more about it, but like that's what Destiny is for me now. And much in the same way, like these games become a core part of us, and I don't think that anyone who's ever been passionate about Halo will ever necessarily lose that, all up. But it's okay to like step away from it for a little while. It's okay to forget. It's okay to go, to use a metaphor, to like go start a family, have a kid, and then come back to it in a few years when you haven't owned the newest Xbox in a while, and be like, hell yeah, they're still making Halo. I will absolutely play that game.
The one thing I did want to add to that, though, is that keep in mind, nostalgia is not limited to us older people, because we still, as young as I am, I still fall under older for a lot of people. There are people that are nostalgic for Halo 4. There are people that are nostalgic for Halo 5. I know it sounds weird, but there's Halo 5 kids out there who grew up playing the game, and now they're playing Infinite, and they're known as Halo 5 kids. You know what I mean?
Well, think about what Halo was. The one thing Halo I think has that's unique, and it's like similar to, I won't say it's on the same level as like any of Nintendo's characters, but Nintendo's characters will forever separate themselves from every other character because of what they were at a point in time, where gaming was at a point in time. And Halo was the social game for a while, right? It was the thing that I think introduced social gaming to a lot of people. A lot of people remember the split screens on college campuses. They remember hauling over TVs or hearing stories about that. And then when online gaming was was the new and exciting thing, it was Halo. It was at the forefront of that. And I think that will always be there. And I think that because of that, I do agree that it is nostalgia. It's not necessarily, but I think the passion and nostalgia go hand in hand. People care about it.
Absolutely.
And even if they're frustrated with it, even if they're stepping away from it, even if they're saying, I'm done with it, I think they still want it to be great. And I think as long as things come out in the future that if there's something comes out in the future that has Halo attached, that's getting a lot of hype, people will jump back in. I mean, hell, they jumped in on Infinite, right? They at least gave it a shot.
Yeah.
They didn't stick with it, but there was a lot of people there in the first weeks, and I think they will continue
couple months
to be able.
Even man, I checked recently today in February, like 5th or something. It was still ahead of. I think it was like their 4th most played on the console. 2 months into launch, it did really well for a while. One thing though I did want to say is I feel like that specific aspect of nostalgia, the people who grew up with it in terms of it being the first social experience, is fading away. In the sense that as more and more years go by, more and more kids are growing up and their experience with Halo isn't that, right? There are big social experiences among us, not
they're running out of
multiplayer
time
game.
filling the gaps.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as the decades pass, that will become a little less relevant. But at least for the next little while, it's as relevant as it's ever been.
Yep. So before we go into the handful of questions from the forum, is there anything else short term that you think they could do to kind of help ease some of the pain that we haven't discussed? I know we already talked about PvE and things like that. Is there anything else you guys want to call out before we move on?
I think it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling about this right now. I'm speaking directly to both you guys and anyone that may be listening. It's okay to feel the way that you feel about whatever this is right now. You can feel angry about it. You can feel sad about it. Those are all valid feelings. This is heartbreaking for the people who lost their livelihoods, for the people who weren't even full-time employees, that were contractors, that don't get severance benefits from losing this job.
For sure.
And it's okay that you're angry at the company that is supposed to be sort of coddling your favorite baby for
Absolutely.
you. It's okay to feel nothing about it at the same time. If you've been let down by the game and you're just indifferent towards this, that's also okay. Like I said earlier, it's okay to step away from anything. It's okay to step away from Halo. It's okay to step away from a hobby for however long it takes for you to want to do it again, and then come back to it then and see how it feels then. There's no reason that any of us have to believe that this is the end of Halo. It will continue to live on. It will continue to be strong. There are 2 books releasing this year. There's nothing to worry about. If you're worried about Halo going away, I would say have faith that it's not going to. If it hasn't already, baby, it's not gonna.
Fair enough.
Well,
Fair enough.
We've said it before too. Like the thing about Halo, and one of the things that makes it so frustrating is there never had been a Halo killer. There isn't like I'm going to go stop playing Halo and play this other thing that feels like Halo but better.
Killzone?
That hasn't come out.
In fact, what killed Halo was, I guess, just a shift in genres. People switched over to BRs instead of arena shooters, and hey, it is what it is, right? Things move on.
I mean, the funny thing is, like, real quick, it's literally Toy Story. Like, it's the story of why Woody's Roundup, the show that Woody is from in Toy Story, got canceled. It's because kids stopped caring about cowboys. They wanted to care about spacemen.
Yeah.
Things change, weather patterns adjust, people's interests sort of move on, and that's okay. The game isn't going anywhere, and I'm sure if anything, this will lead to Halo adapting better and more agilely, in a more agile sense. Anyway, see you guys later. Bye bye.
So, the one thing though, when we talked about the passion and the nostalgia and things like that, the one thing that is. Did Austin really? Oh, he's still there. Okay.
He didn't actually go.
The one thing you do see people putting in like hours upon hours in the Forge. we see things too in MCC. We haven't really talked about this, but you look at them, the survival of MCC. It almost feels like yes, the 343 got that back together, but a lot of the engagement and interest still comes from the community, right? Like what the communities continue to do with that game. I don't know if anybody has seen like some of the mods they've been making. The mods are
only a little
getting
bit,
crazy. So, when we talk about 343 getting a little bit desperate or excited in the future, like or trying to think outside the box. I mean, why not unlock a Halo Infinite mods in the campaign?
Could you imagine? It's funny you mentioned that because Michael Schur actually mentioned something about this somewhat recently.
All right, good. Read it.
I'm gonna find it. You keep talking about it.
Well,
what do you mean? What do you mean? Enable mods in the campaign? Do you mean? Explain.
Just support modding is kind of the.
Oh yeah, because they haven't like they're not like destroying anybody's accounts for it just yet. If you're smart, you know how to kind of get away with some of that. But like MCC style mod tools would be massive, I think, for this game. If you're not going to make a new campaign, then at least let me do it.
And that's what I'm saying, because people keep freshening up the MCC. And like this is slightly off topic, but it's relevant. When I was looking to see where's Halo ranking Halo Infinite right now with its multiplayer and its campaign together. Where is it on the top 20 on the top 50 list? It was like around 20. You know what? Right around where it was at was still Skyrim. Skyrim all these years later. And you know why? Because of the mods. And I think that if you opened up the modding tools, if you supported it, if you made them downloadable on console, like you can do for Skyrim or for Fallout, if you do those types of things, I think you can think outside the box. And if you're not going to make more campaign stuff for years, then just
let the people do it.
Let the people do it.
I found the tweet. It was someone talking about how Steam Workshop has worked great for MCC, and if we'll ever see something like that, or they should see something like that in Subspace and Forge. And he replies, I'd say it's likely eventually, but I don't have any timeline to share. Obviously, the Steam Workshop integration on MCC is great, and when we go down this path, I think that would be a good first step. So it feels like something they've been thinking about. Well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, 100%. There's no way they're not. Like MCC mod support has been so crazy successful. Steam Workshop support has only come to be in the last like 2 or 3 months. Like they're still supplying updates to Halo MCC's like mod support.
Yeah.
I have to imagine that here pretty soon, more and more of the MCC support team is going to move over to helping the Infinite team support its live service. Yeah. I think that they would be stupid not to. If I'm being like blunt about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like it's the most. I mean, could you imagine, especially because we know the game design was somewhat scaled to fit on Xbox One and all that other stuff. Could you imagine what people could do with like the PC and the next, my
favorite example of this, my favorite thing that I'm gonna hope gets fixed with modules. A cool thing that modders have done with Fallout New Vegas is remove the big ass walls that separate each section of Las Vegas in the game, because the original vision was not to have those walls there, but the weaker consoles at the time could not handle it, so they had to divide up the strip. Get rid of the fucking walls between zones, please. I love launching in Halo Infinite's campaign. It is my favorite. It is the only reason I boot it up anymore. And nothing is more frustrating than being like, oh, like there's a really cool angle. Like there's a really good shot. I can just like lob myself clear across the map. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going. And I get like maybe a third of the way there and I stop. Because, oh, sorry, this island? You got to go over here to get to the next island.
It would definitely be interesting to see what happens if they remove those.
Yeah,
I'd be ecstatic about it.
There's still a lot of potential just because the community gives a shit, about Halo. And
surprise, surprise.
People and also,
care.
Dude,
they will do what you won't or what you can't right now. So.
I'm not sure if Mint Blitz released a video earlier today, right? Talking about this a little bit. Nothing new, nothing new information. One thing he mentioned was interesting, where he's like, I've had a better start to this year with my Halo content than I've ever had before. It's like there's still people there making these maps
It's
like
unfortunate that he
Bowser's
can't
Castle.
play the game.
Yes, that for sure. I mean, he's playing Forge and browsers and whatnot. Not to
Of
mention
course.
he's not really playing competitive anyways. But like
He wants
There's
to
still
be,
a-
but he can't.
there's a community there,
They gotta
right?
fix that
Making
too.
content. I mean, there's so much you can fix if you don't have enough players, right? That's there's not much else you can do there. It was funny when the winter update came out. My brother's like, "Hey man, I think they fixed everything so well. It's playing amazing." Yeah, a big part of that's because a lot of people came back and played the first couple of weeks. Right, like just player numbers makes a huge difference in latency. Anyways, like a lot of the cool Forge maps. You guys see Donkey Kong Mountain is on there, the Mario Kart track. I'm just waiting on someone to make like a full-on Mario Kart like scripting system for the power-ups too. But the community's there and it's watching, and it might not be playing, but it's still anxious. You know what I mean? How do I phrase this?
But here's the thing. It's like, okay,
Halo fans are still
I-
hungry for Halo content. That's
Yes,
not
yeah,
stopped.
yeah.
I won't go off too far in a tangent. I've been a lifetime Lions fan. For anybody who watches, American football, and we've won one playoff game in my entire freaking life. I'm 47, and we've had some of the worst records of all time. Most seasons, as soon as we get a loss, I am right back to like, this is the worst team ever. They're never going to do anything. That none of these players are good. There's just it doesn't matter if it's a new GM or coach. But as soon as I get a little winning streak and a whole PM comes in, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's how a lot of Halo fans are. They're kind of like Lions fans. They really do. There's going to be people that are just, they don't know how not to bitch because they've been doing it for so many years. But I think there's just a huge portion that really want them to do
There's something 343 said a while back, and I'm not sure how much they still agree with it because some of the toxicity is super toxic. But one thing they mentioned was we'd rather have people like complaining about our game than not talking about it at all, right? And it makes sense. Obviously, there's levels and scales and limits to how far you go in certain things, but people just talk about your game, even if it's not in a positive light, means they care, they're interested. And I don't care how many times you say, "Oh, even if Tatanka releases, I'm not going to play it. Halo's dead." You're going to play it. You're going to play it. You're going to get stuck in the login queue, actually, for hours because you're there day one. You know what I mean?
It's going to be like trying to log into Destiny when an expansion releases, man.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
Hey, you're number 600,000 in your console's queue. So enjoy the 2-hour wait, brother.
Oh, man. But hey, to answer your original question of what 343 can do short term to help things out.
Oh, wow. We're still on that question. Okay.
Honestly, very little. Because short term implies what, next 6 months or something?
Yeah.
All they could do is just give more little bars for people to work towards, meaning release the ranking system. You know what I mean? Make the battle pass really good for next season. Make the challenge weekly awards really worth going towards. Stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. No, fair.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I think we should move on to our community questions.
Yes,
What
we
do you
only
guys
have
think?
2, so this should be pretty quick. For those of you watching who have not seen any of our previous episodes, it's a pretty simple format: introduction, talk about the Halo news, move over to the community questions, which are over on our forum at forum.xboxera.com. Anyone can ask. It's on the You Had Me at Halo podcast thread, and we'll read and answer every single one. So, without further ado, the first question by Mort. Hello, guys. As someone mainly focused on single player, the recent news sucks. A few questions. Do you think that there's a possibility that the Halo IP gets used by other studios to make games?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
We may not or may not have discussed that for like an hour. What would your favorite studio genre game be in that case? Let's go question by question, I guess. Studio genre.
We didn't say that.
We didn't know.
I think we could probably smack these down pretty quick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Studio genre, quick, go.
Go.
Studio genre. I mean, I'd love to see an MMO.
An MMO. Oh my god, that'd be amazing. Wait, set when
So
then?
you want
Wait,
ZeniMax
modern times?
Online to make a Halo?
Nope. Not.
That's
ZeniMax
what I'm thinking of
Online,
too. I'll be
dude.
honest. You say.
I mean, I
wouldn't.
wouldn't be like crushed about it if it ended up being that, but like, I'm not a fan of Elder Scrolls Online.
Do you mean MMO as in like a
right.
proper, like full on MMO, or like MMO light, like
No,
more
like-
in the veins
like-
of Destiny?
I'd be happy with either.
Yeah, fair enough. Where would you set it though, timeline wise?
Timeline wise, early Human Covenant War.
That'd be cool. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Oh, Blizzard.
Spartan,
I didn't even think about
Mjolnir, like Mark 3, Mark 4 era.
Okay.
Okay.
That'd be interesting. And yeah, Blizzard. I totally forgot about Blizzard too. I'll be
Yeah,
honest.
Blizzard. I mean, you do time travel and you can cover all the areas.
Oh yeah.
In MMO.
Well,
for
and
me, it'd
Infinite
be-
sure introduced time travel, didn't it? Oh my god.
For me, it just would be. I know they got their hands full, but we're talking down the road, right? So I'll say Obsidian in a squad-based RPG to go Mass Effect style.
100%. I was going to say the exact same thing. You got me this time.
All right.
I'll just say BioWare.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, let's just go BioWare. What the hell? Maybe they got it back together.
Man.
Okay, next question on there.
Next question. Question 2. Do you perhaps think that could be one of Staten's new tasks? Oh my God, we didn't talk about him leaving.
He's leaving.
I saw this question coming. So.
I don't think that we could really add much to that conversation. I feel like this kind of applies to everything else. He's leaving 343 to go back to Xbox Publishing. He wasn't a part of the layoffs. I have a feeling that this was already in the works. I have a feeling that he was probably planning around the same time that Bonnie was going to be leaving 343. I imagine Joe was probably. And I have to imagine that 343 stopping to pursue campaign content was a big deciding factor in that.
Did we have any concrete reason to think he was here permanently? Or was that mostly us just hoping that he'd stay on and help?
I had the impression he was going to be on for a while, just because of the way he spoke, and he just seemed like he was there for the ride, right? I don't blame anybody. I know people have been saying, "Well, this is what he does," but I just think that if you listen to enough interviews and stuff like that, he seemed extremely committed, and I don't blame anybody for thinking that he was. And here's the thing: like logically, you restructured, you set up new leadership. Bonnie Ross leaves. But Staten stays and he has a new title. So why would you get a new title and then leave that a few months later unless something changed?
No, it has to be the catalyst. Yeah.
Yeah. So I get that. Yeah, he usually doesn't stay for forever. But here's the other thing. He says, do you think the Halo IP should be kept inside Xbox? We still don't know details of how they're going to manage this stuff. They're saying 343. If they do use second party, I mean, doesn't that put it right back into Staten's lane in some ways? So you don't even know.
I don't think that Halo needs to stay exclusive. I've always been of the opinion that console exclusives are dumb anyway. Be it like games or like content. I mean, literally, like put your title, like Xbox, please put Halo on every platform, and then like add it to Game Pass. And it will still sell gangbusters on Xbox. Or
admittingly, I feel like not every.
So I think you muted yourself, buddy.
I was like, did I just lose my hearing?
I'm back. What I'm saying is, admittingly, not every studio has like the resources set in place to like fully support a bunch of different platforms, especially the Switch, because the Switch.
Of course. I mean, of course.
And the Switch needs to come. It's like 2 years ago, but I get what you mean, and I fully agree.
Yeah, I just don't think they're going to go with Halo. So it just is what it is. But
I don't think they will. I'd like it to.
Yeah. All right, next question.
Next question, number 3, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the success of the concept of making making games with mercenary? Wow, am I sleepy?
Contractors.
How would you rate the success of the concept of making games with mercenary contractors? There you go. The mercenary word threw me off.
So I think there needs to be some nuance in this contractor discussion. I think we've done, because they were misused or misproportioned in terms of the way that 343 did things under the laws in Washington. I think there's this assumption that contractor bad. There's number one. There's some people that do want to be contractors. They like the flexibility. Yes. I've talked to a developer that doesn't want to be tied down, and it gives them other experiences and things like that.
Also, you're not salaried, right? So sometimes like you can bill a lot of hours if you're traveling, things like that for some things.
You can get more. Sometimes you can get more for the hours you work, right? Yeah. So there's people that do that, and there's a win-win. There is a benefit on both sides if it's used correctly or if it's used appropriately, and it's not going to go away. All these studios, I mean, even Sony studios contract out with a bunch of support studios and contractors, and it's used all over the industry. The issue was how much was being used, and
the 18-month limit, right? That's not
18-month limit.
That's not US wide, is it? because
No,
I
it's
know a
not
lot of
US
I know a lot of people that have been contracted for like a decade.
Like,
They
I
just
think
keep
if
renewing the contracts.
I think if they make things through Certain Affinity, who's in Texas, I think if they went through there, they could bring in a contractor and keep them more than 18 months over there. So again, there's nuance to it. So I think my theory or assumption based on based on just the time where Microsoft and Xbox were in the previous era under Meyerson, when Microsoft wasn't sure they wanted to keep gaming, which, by the way, a lot of the comments you're seeing from some of these former developers were on the Halo 5 team. So a different Microsoft at that time than it is now. Microsoft didn't really care for 343 or
I mean, yes and
take
no.
care
One
them.
of the more vocal employees was one of the lead multiplayer designers on Infinite for all of its development.
I think he's
Oh,
talking
okay.
about the recent Grub
No.
video, right?
Yeah. No, I was talking about the Grub.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, man.
Yeah. And so context. Yeah, there's. I mean, obviously, people have a right to. There was issues with this team as well, right? Like, so we won't go down all that stuff again. But I guess what I'm saying is that you can use contractors correctly. They can help you scale up quickly when you need to.
Give us a number, Abe. 1 to 10.
I'm just gonna say it's 6. I don't know, 5, 6, something like that. It's not bad. But you prefer to have full-time employees if all things are equal, right? Yeah.
I'm just gonna give it a high 8 or 9 or something, just because like every game in existence uses various amounts of contractors to push the game out or to make the game in the first place. You know what I mean? In fact, most of the time you probably won't even know they're using contractors to make. They're thinking it's just such a regular part of game dev and of working in the States in general.
Just don't overuse them. That's it.
Yeah.
People that use contractors are the same people that would be landlords, so fuck them.
Every corporation uses contractors. Is the
I
issue.
know.
Every
Fuck
single one. Man,
I think it's fair. It's fair. I think we covered the gambit on that one. So,
Yeah.
All right. Next question.
next question, which is our last question, by Metroid fan VRG. Hey guys, in the wake of recent news, how do you feel about where Halo Infinite's story ended? Do you think we will still get at least one expansion for the Infinite's campaign that will give some kind of resolution with the Endless, or will we be left hanging until another mainline Halo comes out? If you were Mr. Microsoft, how would you resolve the Endless if you couldn't do a campaign expansion for Infinite? Personally, I would wrap up the story in Halo Wars 3 with the UNSC, the Banished, the Flood, and the Endless being playable factions. But I'm really just using this as an excuse to get more Halo Wars.
I think they should end it in a comic book.
We should appreciate the transparency.
A terrible comic book.
I think they should bring it back to life in a comic book and then kill him at the end of that comic book.
So there's been rumors they're going to still tell some of the story through the multiplayer, right? I know it's been the multiplayer narrative's been terrible. So
man,
far.
that was my answer actually, Abe, to your
far.
previous question.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
When in terms of what can they do short term, they can make at least half decent multiplayer narratives for the seasons. That's what they can do.
Improve them, right?
I think. Oh my god! Please be better than season 2.
Serious. I mean, it has to be. The bar is literally on the ground. There's no.
No, the bar is. I've buried the bar. You
Seriously?
cannot go lower. The teaser image we've gotten is already better than most of what we got.
It's
in
hit
season
bedrock,
2,
man. It's there's
Like the
diamonds around
cool,
it. That's how
like-
low it is.
It's like the multiplayer map, which like that stresses me out. That gives me like RVB vibes. Please don't put cutscenes in multiplayer maps. But like the multiplayer map from season 3, and then there's like the Spartan is one of the lone wolf Spartans from season 2 is like looking at the warthog on fire. That looks so cool. I hope that the seasonal narrative is anything like what we've seen from that.
But it's
probably not gonna be, and that's okay for now, I guess.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll jump to Abe. Sorry, you were answering the question of how can they conclude Infinite story, the Endless story.
I don't think you conclude it without a mainline game, but I do think you can tell stories within that connect to it, right? Within the universe, within that maybe fill in some gaps, things like that. Let's see if they can do something interesting. Again, we talked about being creative. Now, I don't know that they have a lot of narrative people there anymore, so maybe that's going to be a challenge. But yeah, let's see if you can actually make multiplayer narrative stuff interesting in the meantime. But I think we'll see the story concluded when they're ready. They find somebody that's going to make a big Halo game again, is my opinion.
I mean, I would love it if, like, legitimately would not be upset about this if they do decide to kind of shelve a mainline game for a little while. Not because, like, 343 is like the IP is going to be taken away and given to somebody else. But I'd love it if, like, Joe went to go and do whatever he's going to do for Xbox Publishing for a little while, because I have to anticipate that they're pulling him to a different project, not just being like, okay, you're done over there. It'd be cool for him to come back in an official capacity and be like, hey guys, I am going to lead the charge on the next Halo campaign. The idea of that just now gave me the nerdiest goosebumps I've ever gotten in my life.
That's kind of a cool. That is.
But, like, that's the dream for me.
Yeah. Good pin.
When I think of the reason for Halo Infinite's reboot story-wise, right? The primary reason was people didn't like Halo 5's campaign. They didn't like the story direction. In fact, similar thing with Halo 4 in regards of it requiring too much outside reading, which it did. 100% Halo 4 required a lot of outside reading to get what's happening. That's why they shelved the main villain in a flipping comic book, right? Which, admittingly, is getting another book this year. But still. So I think there is a chance that even if the next game comes out, so what, Halo Infinite came out 2021, right? Yep. Even if the next game comes out 5 years later, 2026, I think there's a chance they continue the main story.
God,
I could see that.
So sad.
I know. No, far away.
I will say, I think that whether it's 10 years from now or 3 years from now, the next Halo game will continue the story. They've given themselves such a clean slate,
exactly,
with a good bad guy. They don't need to reinvent the wheel. Even if they, like, retcon some of the endless stuff that they were gonna do to, like, just be like, fuck it, we'll just bring the flood back, like, fully go back to our roots kind of thing, which is basically what the endless is anyway.
Yeah. The flood. No. There's something much worse in here. I'm like, come on, lady. Right. What's worse?
It's the proto flood. I'd be fine with that. I'd be fine with that, and I genuinely think that the next mainline Halo game will be a continuation of it.
I think it'll have the pilot, it'll have Esparza, it'll have the weapon, it'll have Chief. I fully believe that. And I mentioned this earlier, but hey, 4 to 5 years between games is kind of the norm these days now. It sucks, but that's the world we live in.
Well, the biggest bummer is that it's not going to be 4 to 5 years of production right now. It's going to be probably 2 years of no production whatsoever. And then if whatever they do between now and then is successful, then they'll kick up some production.
Yeah. It's going to be a bit. All right. So, guys, I guess we're going to just do a really quick roundtable. Final thoughts. Not too long. Final thoughts on everything we just talked about. And then we'll sign off.
I mean, as you can tell, like, my position is Halo is dead. It's dead. As I said at the beginning of the show, this is the last episode. This has been a great time. Obviously, I'm joking. No, I think that although right now it's not great, the future is still bright. The developers, like, the cool thing is that these poor people that were affected by these layoffs still got on Twitter, and most of them still said, "Hey, this isn't the end. Halo will continue to evolve and grow, and, like, it's not going anywhere. Maybe I am, but Halo's not." I have nothing but confidence that Infinite's going to at least continue to maintain where it's at right now, if not get better.
Okay. Yeah. I came in this episode pretty bittersweet. In fact, more bitter than sweet, I'd say. A lot of my interactions today in the forums, on Discord, on Twitter, on Reddit. God, Reddit sucks. But a lot of my interactions have been just full of dour and people kind of thinking it's done, it's over, and I kind of came into the episode with that mindset, right? But now, fast forward an hour and 40 minutes of talking Halo, and man, I love this IP. I love this world. I love talking about it. You know what I mean? And yeah, it sucks that we're gonna have to wait a little longer. But I still think, like Austin said, the future is still bright. They're fine. They almost, not officially, but they basically confirmed, or we've got confirmed knowledge that they're finally doing what we wanted them to do for so long, which is branch the IP out, do more of it. It's such a powerful, such a strong IP, right? Don't sit on it. That's awesome. Next campaign game's coming. It'll take longer. It'll probably still be good. The multiplayer is still pretty solid. It's looking like it's going to have a really good year. Yeah. bittersweet, right? Bitter that it's going to take a while. Bitter that we're not going to get that campaign DLC in a year, 2 years. But sweet because the future still looks good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think so. Where I'm at would be, so guys, let me tell you about being a Lions fan.
Wait,
Uh,
isn't there a Detroit team that's doing half decent?
sometimes you bring in a new GM, and he needs his own coach, his own quarterback, his own players, and you gotta like reimagine everything you've done in order to, hopefully in a few years be better. And I feel like Halo will have good days ahead. The things that are happening at Microsoft really suck right now for for all the 10,000 employees there and throughout all the tech industry and really everywhere. But there will be upturns again, and I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity. I think sometimes hitting those low points, and I kind of look at this as probably a low point in terms of where the franchise has ever been, just when you kind of factor everything all together. Right. I do think that there is still a ton of potential. They still have a ton of they still have a ton of assets to work with, and like I said, a great sandbox, a lot of things, and people do still care about this IP. Yeah. So I do expect better days ahead. I actually think the next couple seasons, if you're a multiplayer gamer, I feel like around season 4 we're probably going to have some fun. There's some cool things along the way. That's my prediction, and so there will be some ups and things like that. But long term, big picture, sometimes being able to step back and kind of rethink of how you're doing things is better, and that's the only way you get better, right? Like whether you're trying to lose weight or anything else, sometimes you got to step back, look at all your habits, everything you've been doing that hasn't really got you where you want to go, and maybe think about how you could do it differently. So in the future, they will start hire. There will be more developers working on Halo stuff, and there will be more chances taken, and that's really what we've been asking for. So eventually, I see things going in a better direction. And that's it, man.
Cool, guys. Thank you so much. You have just watched, a ton of you actually have watched live the 66th episode of You Had Me at Halo. This has been wonderful. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm going to throw it to my co-hosts real quick. Soul, if people wanted to look you up on the internet, where would they do that at? What are you working on right now? Where can people find you?
I did just release something. I spent like 3 nights or 3 days editing, and man, I swear, you edit a video, right? And you work on the tiniest crap. Like I swear, I like timed certain shots to like a beat that sounded really loud in my headphones when I was listening to the track and playing it. And I watched it on TV, and you literally can't hear it. So like when I spent like 2 hours fine tuning is completely, but released a couple of videos recently. We just released a video talking about the 10 Xbox studios we're most excited for. I think it's a pretty great video. Both Austin and Abe also helped write it too. Actually, I didn't write it at all. So they wrote it and proven. Give it a shot. It's on our YouTube channel. It's a great fun.
It's a very well made video. So you did a great job with that.
Thank you.
Where's the Halo multiplayer review? You know what? We'll wait on that.
No, man. I had my stream. You guys don't remember? I went through the whole thing.
You did not. Did you really?
I went through the whole thing.
I legitimately don't believe you. Anyway, Abe, my friend, where can people find you online? What podcasts are you not on this week?
Actually, I think I'm going to try to jump in on Booms tomorrow morning for a little bit. Yeah, they're talking Halo, so obviously, hey, they put out the bat signal, and there I am.
Of course.
Actually, if you want to find me, go ahead and just follow me on Twitter, and my handle at mutha_1, and there I will let you know kind of like where I'm going to be. And yeah, I am working on some content right now, so I will be putting out our top 15 games from XboxEra. There's a lot of A lot of
this
great
year,
games to play
for
this year.
2023,
So
yeah.
if you do
Absolutely.
take a break from Halo, there will be a lot of things to play.
God,
And
seriously.
actually, I'll be working on a Halo article too. By the way, might as well, right? Talk about it for all these hours. So, yeah. Other than that, I will be actually up. I should mention it too. Tomorrow I'll be on the Xbox Infinite podcast at night as well. So yeah, I
damn.
will be on 2 podcasts.
Austin was not
Yeah,
joking.
of course.
I will be on 2 podcasts tomorrow, and I'll be on. Never mind. We'll just forget about the rest of them. Follow me on Twitter, and you'll find me. So
Well, guys, my username has been up on the screen the entire time. If you like me and want to see me do more things like tweet or maybe stream again one of these days, who knows? You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, AustinFordGames at AustinFordGames. Guys, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the You Had Me at Halo podcast. Until next week, be safe, have fun,
So-
maybe play some Halo.
Speaking of our next show, it's not set in stone. Right now, we're kind of just when news drops, we'll go. We'll probably get official confirmation or official news soonish, I imagine, right? Of him leaving. We might get some more info with that too,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So look out
Anyway.
for when the next look out for when the next Halo news drops, and hey, we'll be there.
Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, be safe, have fun. We love you.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Take care, guys.